My name is Ryan. I'm 35, and my wife Olivia is 28. We've been married for 5 years, and for most of that time I thought we were really happy. Olivia is outgoing, vivacious, and the kind of person who gets along with everyone easily. Her younger sister, Lola, who is 25, has always been a regular in our lives. Whether it was family dinners, holidays, or tennis lessons, the three of us spent a lot of time together. Tennis became our shared passion. We trained on the same court with the same coach. It was a great way for Olivia and me to bond, and Lola joining in made it even more lively and fun. Lola feels like the little sister I never had, but for better or worse, she had to jump on my. While our time with Lola was enjoyable, I had a cousin, Christian. I don't have any siblings, but Christian, who is 19, has always been like a little brother to me, despite being from the next state over. He's a college student and incredibly tech-savvy, often immersed in games and computer settings. One summer, Christian came to visit us for the holidays. He brought his gaming PC with him, and it quickly became the centerpiece of his visit. It soon intrigued Olivia and even some of the new local friends he made while staying with us. Fortnite was Christian's favorite game, and it didn't take long for Olivia to join in on the fun. She found it addictive, and what started as curiosity soon blossomed into a full-fledged interest. To my surprise, she enjoyed it so much that she bought her own gaming laptop to join the group. Watching her become immersed in Christian's gaming world was funny and, I thought at the time, harmless. It seemed like a fun way for her to unwind. But Olivia was her social self, making friends in her usual way. Fast forward to this summer, and Christian decided to visit us again. This time, it wasn't all about relaxing and playing. He had another goal. Christian wanted to find a part-time job while staying with us to make the most of his summer vacation. Olivia, ever the supportive one, did her best to help him. She pulled some strings at the restaurant where she works as a manager and got him a job as a waiter. It seemed like the perfect setup. Christian would get a taste of responsibility and gain valuable work experience, and Olivia would be there to guide him. I admired her willingness to help him. She has a natural talent for caring for others, and she enjoys seeing people grow. From the outside, everything seemed normal, even perfect. Christian was looking forward to work, and Olivia seemed genuinely excited to support him in this new chapter. At first, everything was great. Christian settled into his new routine, dividing his time between work, play, and hanging out with friends. Olivia's enthusiasm for his success made me proud of her. It showed how much she cared about her family. But as the weeks went by, I began to notice things that were starting to make me suspicious. Looking back, it's hard to pinpoint the exact moment when I started to feel uneasy. Perhaps it was because Olivia and Christian's dynamic seemed to have changed. They'd always gotten along, but this time there was an intensity to their connection that hadn't been there before. They were sharing jokes, laughing a little too much, and spending more time together than I expected. But I told myself it was all in my head. They were just getting closer, and Olivia was being the warm, welcoming person she'd always been. They spent a lot of time together, not just playing games or working. They laughed at jokes that seemed to be theirs alone, and spent hours playing together late into the night. At first, I chalked it up to their shared interests. It wasn't until a few weeks ago that things started to feel different. One evening, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. Their voices were quiet, and I couldn't quite catch everything, but Christian was thanking Olivia for everything she'd done for him. Her tone was soft as she said, "You don't have to say it. You'll thank me later." When I walked in, they both looked startled, and Olivia quickly explained that they were discussing his work schedule. I let it go, since it made perfect sense. It wasn't just their interactions at home. I noticed that Christian's shifts at the restaurant seemed to coincide almost perfectly with Olivia's. She claimed it was for staffing reasons, but it seemed convenient to me. When I casually brought it up, Olivia shrugged and said she was just helping him get used to the job. The weirder moment came on Friday. I was supposed to be out of town for a work meeting, but it got canceled at the last minute. I didn't tell Olivia, thinking I'd surprise her by coming home early. I walked inside, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. I called out to Olivia, but there was no answer. Then I heard faint laughter from the living room. My heart started pounding as I got closer. There they were, sitting on the couch, practically shoulder to shoulder. Christian was showing Olivia something on his laptop, her hand resting lightly on his. They didn't notice me at first. They were so absorbed in each other. When I cleared my throat, they jumped apart. "Ryan," Olivia said, her voice high and nervous. "Why scare me like that? You're home early." I asked what they were doing, and Olivia awkwardly explained that Christian needed help with something at work. The room was stuffy. I nodded and just went to bed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene in my head. The way they were sitting, the closeness, the look in their eyes. None of it seemed innocent. I told myself I was overthinking it. The next day, I tried to test the waters. I suggested that we go on a date, just the two of us. Olivia hesitated and said that she had already promised Christian that we would finish a video game challenge together. I couldn't believe it. She had chosen my cousin over me, for a video game, no less. I didn't insist, but it hurt. Over the next few days, more and more little things started to pile up. Olivia seemed to become more protective of her phone. When I walked into the room, Christian and Olivia would sometimes go quiet or change the subject. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but the patterns became impossible to ignore. Also, the fact that Olivia had mostly stopped going to tennis was confusing me, as was her sister, who I now had to go with alone. Last night, Olivia mentioned that Christian was thinking about staying longer than planned. She said he liked being here and felt like part of the family. While I wanted to support him, the thought of him staying all summer bothered me. The worst part is that I have no concrete evidence that anything is going on. Maybe they are just unusually close because they are family. But then why do I feel this way? During one of our tennis practices, Lola wiped the sweat from her brow and asked, "Where's Olivia? She's been missing a lot lately." Her casual question hit me harder than I expected. For a second, I hesitated. Should I tell her? Lola wasn't just Olivia's sister. She was also someone I trusted, someone who cared about us both. Maybe she could help me sort out the storm brewing in my mind. I decided to be brief. "She was busy with Christian," I said, my voice harsher than I intended. Lola looked at me, confused. I sighed and gave her a softened version of events, and my gut feeling that something was wrong. Her expression changed. She wasn't shocked, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "You should come over after practice," she said. "Let's talk about this more." After practice, we grabbed some water and headed over to her place. Lola's apartment was cozy, filled with plants and the faint scent of lavender candles. Once we settled on the couch, she leaned forward, genuinely interested. "Okay, tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." And so I did. I told her how it all started with Christian's visit over the summer, the play sessions that went on way too late, the jokes that seemed to exclude me, and the way their connection felt different. I told her about coming home to find them giggling on the couch, too close for my comfort. "It's just little things, Lola," I said, running a hand through my hair. "But they add up." Lola listened intently, nodding every now and then. When I finished, she sighed. "Ryan, I understand why you feel this way, but confronting Olivia head-on could backfire. If nothing happens, it could hurt your relationship. And if," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "it's better to approach this with caution. Why not talk to Christian instead? He's younger, and he might be able to open up to you more easily." Her suggestion made sense. Christian was less defensive, and I could imagine the conversation as an older cousin looking out for him. I nodded, thanking Lola for her perspective, though part of me still felt uneasy. I went home that night, determined to have a calm conversation with Christian. But when I walked through the door, the house was eerily quiet. Neither Olivia nor Christian were home. I texted Olivia, asking where she was, but got no answer. As the minutes stretched into an hour, I found myself pacing. Finally, the front door opened and the smell of alcohol hit me before I even saw them. Olivia and Christian stumbled in, giggling like schoolchildren. My stomach twisted. Olivia was leaning against the wall, laughing at something Christian said, and they looked at me like a couple of teenagers caught sneaking out after curfew. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Olivia hiccuped and smirked. "Office party at the restaurant. It was last minute. I swear I wanted to tell you." Christian chimed in, slightly slurring. "Yeah, man, it was awesome. You should have been there." My jaw clenched. Something about the way they were acting, so carefree, so unconcerned, lit a fire in me. Office party? I asked, raising my voice. Why didn't any of you mention this before? Do you expect me to believe this? Olivia waved her hand dismissively, but before she could respond, my frustration exploded. I turned to Christian, who was still smirking like it was a joke, and slapped him across the cheek. The sound echoed through the room, cutting through the drunken haze. Christian staggered back, his hand flying to his face. "For what, Ryan?" he said, stunned. Olivia rushed towards him, her tone changing from laughter to anger. "Ryan, what's wrong with you? He's just a kid. A kid who acts like he owns this house." I blurted out, my voice shaking. "I've had enough of the lies, Olivia. I want the truth. Now." Christian muttered something under his breath and stormed off to his room, slamming the door behind him. Olivia stared at me, her eyes flashing with anger. "What's gotten into you? You had no right to hit him." "What's gotten into me?" I snapped. "What's gotten into you? You act like nothing I say or feel matters. What do you think it looks like when you two disappear together and come back drunk, laughing about some office party I didn't even know about?" Her face hardened. "Are you seriously accusing me of something? Christian is family, Ryan. Family. You're the one blowing this out of proportion." I shook my head, feeling the gap between us widen with every word. "I don't know what's going on, Olivia, but I'm not making this up. Something's wrong." With nothing resolved, we went to bed in silence, each of us retreating to our sides of the mattress like strangers. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the night over and over in my head, searching for answers I couldn't find. The atmosphere in the house was tense in the days that followed. Christian avoided me, and I avoided him back. Olivia and I only spoke when necessary, and even then the conversations were clipped and cold. I stood my ground, convinced I was right. But deep down, I wondered if I was slowly destroying our marriage. Over time, the tension in our home had become unbearable, and I didn't want things to get any more out of hand. I decided to surprise Olivia and Christian after work to try to bring some lightness back into our lives. I grabbed a bouquet of her favorite flowers, lilies and roses, which I hadn't bought in months, and rehearsed what I would say to Christian. I wanted it to be calm and friendly. If I handled it right, maybe we could clear things up and I could put all this doubt aside. I pulled into the drive-in just as the lights were starting to dim inside. It looked like the place was closing for the night. I glanced at my watch. They should have finished by now, but I thought they might still be cleaning. I walked inside, the bouquet crunching in my hand, and glanced around the room. It was eerily quiet, with only a few employees lingering, wiping down tables and setting up chairs. "Excuse me," I asked one of the workers, "have you seen Olivia or Christian?" They shrugged and pointed vaguely. "The staff could be in the kitchen or the restroom," they said. I nodded and thanked them, my nerves jangling as I walked into the kitchen. The kitchen was a ghost town, the stainless steel countertops gleaming under the flickering fluorescent lights. Squeezing through the swinging door at the far end, I found myself outside the staff restroom. That's when I heard its voice. Low, muffled, and undeniably familiar. My heart pounded as I leaned closer, the bouquet shaking in my hand. Olivia's laughter echoed faintly, followed by Christian's voice, quieter, more serious. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I pushed the door open without hesitation. What I saw stopped me in my tracks, playfully grabbing at each other between their legs. The bouquet slipped from my hand, landing on the tile floor with a thud. For a moment, they didn't notice me, too caught up in their own world. Then Olivia's eyes darted up, wide with horror as she pushed Christian away from her. "Ryan!" she screamed, trying to cover something. Christian stammered, "It's not what it seems." I didn't say a word. My chest felt like it was going to explode, my hands shaking as I turned and walked away. Their voices followed me, calling my name, pleading, but I didn't stop. I pushed through the restaurant, past the confused employees, and out into the night air. I fumbled for my phone and dialed Lola. My hands were shaking so badly that it took me 2 tries to press the call button. "Ryan," she answered, her voice quiet with worry. "Can I come over?" I managed, my throat tightening. "Sure. What happened?" "I'll explain when I get there," I said, hanging up before she could ask any more questions. The drive to Lola's house was a blur, my mind a whirlwind of anger, hurt, and disbelief. When I arrived, she opened the door before I even knocked, her face etched with worry. "Ryan, what's going on?" she asked, pulling me inside. I sat down on her couch, running a hand over my face. "It's Olivia and Christian," I began, the words choking me as I forced them out. Lola's face went pale. She sank into the seat next to me, her hands over her mouth. "Oh, no," she whispered. "Are you serious?" I nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "I don't know what to do. I walked out." We sat in silence for a moment, the gravity of the situation taking in. Lola finally stood and grabbed a bottle of wine from the kitchen. "We're not going to solve this tonight," she said, pouring us both a glass. "Let's just try to get through this evening." We drank in silence, the wine dulling the pain but not erasing it. At some point, I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I knew, I was waking up to the soft morning light streaming through Lola's kitchen window. She was already up, making coffee, her face tired but kind as she handed me a mug. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Not really," I admitted, sipping my coffee. "Let's do something," she said suddenly. "Something to get my mind off of this. How about AS sport?" I wasn't sure I had the energy for it, but I nodded. Anything was better than sitting in silence, lost in my thoughts. Later that morning, we walked out onto the court, dressed in our regular clothes. It was surreal, picking up my racket and pretending my life hadn't just been turned upside down. We started hitting the ball back and forth, but neither of us was focused. And after 20 minutes we gave up and sat on the bench, both staring at the ground. After a long silence, Lola spoke. "Ryan, you don't deserve this," she said, her voice firm. "You don't deserve to be treated like this. No one. You're a good person. You need someone who sees that." And then she kissed me. It was like a dam breaking. We pulled apart for a moment, both breathing hard, and she whispered, "You don't deserve this, Ryan. Let me show you." Her words pierced me, and I kissed her again, deeper this time, hungrier. It was raw and real, a balm for the wounds. Now we started to paw each other wherever we wanted. I lifted her skirt so that all the charms were visible from underneath. "Not here," she muttered, looking at the open court. We grabbed our bags and headed to the locker room, where the privacy gave us the opportunity to feel all the skills and virtues of each other. I remember how juicy I poured it right on her face. It was not planned, and it was not right, but at that moment it was what I needed.